Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the return of the podcast. Yay! Did it? This is where I had music in the background, but I'm not that professional. Don't have a laptop, and so on. Yay! Welcome back. So, for those people new to this, or don't know what a podcast is, it's basically us recapping the races of RSF1 League, week in, week out. And obviously giving you the best of the action, the results and everything else. Interviews as well as real life Formula 1. Obviously not yet, mainly, because the season hasn't started, but we do have something to talk about, but that'll be later on. Basically, that's all it is. It's a bit of a chilled thing as well, so yeah, we have the stream on, and if any comments, please let us know. I am RSF1 Michael, also known as Brondell. And I'm joined by two people that are going to be my regular sort of co-hosts, guests, if you like, in this show. First of all, we start off with a guy that's has been in the league for a couple of seasons now, and has done a bit of commentary as well. Gets a little bit hyperactive a couple of times as well. Who am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about Monster Skyline, also known as Ryan.
I don't know which one I was just talking about either. You're describing both of them perfectly. Then it's just like, which one's coming first? I don't know. But yeah, hello.
Good evening to you. How are you today?
It's just this whole lockdown stuff is a bit boring at times, but compared to most days, yeah, I'd say it's been pretty good. What about you?
I was going to say, let's not mention lockdown or.
I mean, you asked.
The thing going around too, but yeah, I did ask. I did kind of open myself up there, and you just went straight in, and yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Kind of chased you.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Let's move on to our other guest that is here with us, and a guy that is a very adamant viewer of RSF1. Has watched every single race, but I always see him in the chats. Is a very avid viewer of not just his own tier but everyone else's, and that is the reason why I employed him and asked him to join us, and he very happily accepted. Welcome to the podcast, RSF1 Hippo.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
It's okay. Obviously, as I mentioned, you are a avid viewer of the streams of the races going by. I think you joined us halfway through last season, if I'm correct.
I joined a day before Australia last season.
Oh, okay, so you did do a full season. Yeah, what makes you watch the races? Obviously, you're entertained by them because you keep on doing it, but what's the main sort of attraction to them?
It's just knowing what's going on and just learning, seeing what other people are doing, especially with their first race of the week. First couple gives you time to prepare, know what's going on with the track, and
Cool. So let's go through what we're going to be talking about today, just in a little bit more detail. So we're going to go by our main topic of conversation is going to be the races that have happened this week in Australia in our first round of the season. I'm going to just start things off. Background footage, by the way, is just me going in time trial and my appalling driving at times. As you will see right now. There you go, the last corner. Wonderful. Just some background footage, so we have in the background as we talk about this. So, going by tier, obviously day by day as well. So F2 will be starting us off, and we'll round things off with F4. We have a interview from one of the drivers, which will be every week that we do this, hopefully somebody different, and then we'll talk about the real life stuff. So let us begin with the tier that began on Sunday, the F2 division, and we come over to Hippo for this, who has analysed the race in detail and also give us results of that. So take us away, Hippo.
F2 was an interesting one to start the week off. It was quite a dramatic start to the season, I think, fair to say. a couple of big things happening that I think most people know about, even if you weren't watching. We'll start with the qualifying, and top 10 ended up being Ben, known as BF1 Racer.
Hippo, sorry. Can you up the volume of your mic or something? Because you're very quiet on my end.
Okay.
There's
Is that any better?
yeah, that's a little bit better. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, the top 10 was rounded up with Breezy in the Renault. So I'm not sure he set a great or competitive time in the last qualifier. But above him was Riplin One Shot with a 1. Jace Lee also got a 120. Two McLarens of Mark. Both set in 119.8s. P6. Magic Mark, first champion to round. Came up in 5, 19.7. Dangerous Dan ahead of him at 19.75. Lukey with 19.73. Top 2 were a little bit quicker than them. Bill Sparks got a 19.5. BF1 Racer got a 19.3. So quite gap there from the top of the field, but yeah, it was a very interesting race. Big start the week off. Early on, just as the race got underway, there was a safety car. 2 corners into lap 1. 4 retirements. That was a very interesting start to the race. There were a lot of things up in the air, and most people pitted. Lots of people got penalties. I believe you stayed out on your mediums. You come into pit.
Yeah. I was actually quite lucky to begin with, because I got spun on the turn 1. I believe by my teammate actually, Hudson, which actually got me out of the mess that happened later on past turn 2 in that little straight towards turn 3. Yeah, if I hadn't been spun, I would have been in the middle of all that, and I just arrived and there was like a sea of cars in front of me, just a car park, and unfortunately managed to tap a few cars on the way by, got 2 5-second penalties, which I then pitted twice to get out of, to be clear of those, and that's why I sort of pitted onto mediums and then went back onto soft, so I was on my correct strategy I was going to do anyway. But yeah, it was a very interesting start to F2.
Yeah. Looked like lots of people got caught up in it, and over half the field ended up having penalties, I believe. But then restart happened at 4. And there were only 3 on softs front. Everyone else, I believe, the 3 from the top 3 had pit. And the original leader BF1 Racer was down. A couple of people who started on outside the top 10, like basically through the traffic jam. And then there was a second safety. Not long later, I think it was a couple of laps after. And that left only Muddy Biscuit out on the soft race. So for the restart, was against, or for Muddy Biscuit restart and against him on the race strategy. Teammate was also in the top 3 that came into the pits. Yeah, Muddy got a good getaway. Got a 10-second gap to BF1 Racer and those behind. And at this moment, one of the people that are best drives of the week, RSF1 up into 4th from 15th. He's done very well to get through all that traffic. Yeah, not long after that, again, around lap 9, I believe, 2 cars, I think they made contact at turn 2, ended up with one spinning, but not on that straight. They spun towards the pit lane. But that ended in no safety car. Yellow flag through that last section. Then lap 13, Muddy pitted off from the race lead. And then later on in that same lap, a VSE came out. Wouldn't have been ideal for Muddy at all. But Braver Container, he went into the pits and crashed the pit entry. Be unlucky. A great race with a couple of spins. Misjudged it, which is very unfortunate. That caused a virtual safety car. Just as that ended, Ricky and Sparks were having a little bit of a battle before it came to green flag racing. Ricky got past just after the virtual safety car ended. Just half of the last sector to go to take the lead. Not much happened between that 13th or 16th happened. So lap 20, when Cookie and Bill Sparks both pitted, giving Stygian the lead with just 9 laps to go. However, it was doubt that he would finish. He was on mediums, I believe 11 laps old at this point. So, on the 25th lap, Milan had caught Stygian, and it was those two ahead of the 2 Racing Point, ahead of Muddy Biscuit, who was on mediums, pretty fresh, and then RSF1 Cookie, who was on 3 lap old soft. He was very much trying to push and gain as much time as he could. Lap 27 was one to forget for Stygian. He made a mistake, or he lost the position early on by Fafar Milan. Then, I believe one of the Racing Points had a collision. Then that allowed Muddy and Cookie to get through, and they both got past Stygian. So did the Racing Point, and he was 6th. First to 6th in 1 lap, so it wasn't great for him. Tyres obviously weren't holding up too well. And after that point, Cookie got past Milan and was just get the lap times. On the last lap, he came across the line 4 seconds ahead of Muddy Biscuit, but because of penalties, the McLaren took the first win of the season. RSF1. Cool. The race standings at the end of the race were Muddy Biscuit won, just ahead of Cookie, but on penalties. Cookie then took 2nd, and the Racing Point of Josh S04 ended up on the last spot of the podium. Lil Sparks, Lukey and FFR Milan just out on those. And in 7th we were Jace Lee. In 8th, you Michael. I'd start the season. Then Grunty, the F1 racer round 10.
Yeah, decent race from F2 altogether. Pretty good start. Obviously, not ideal with the pile-up at the beginning, but obviously first race is always going to be difficult because drivers are obviously getting used to everyone's spatial awareness, or sometimes lack of, for some people. But I think it was a very, very unfortunate incident. Literally a clip of a rear tyre for front wing, and that's all it was. I believe it was Dangerous Dan and Moronix that started it all off, and then it all just triggered behind, and then that was it. Obviously we'll get to F3 in a little bit, Ryan, but obviously difficult first corner. Not exactly the ideal start for RSF1 because they were the first race, but I'm sure in Bahrain they would have learned a little bit, although Bahrain is a bit of a tricky corner in itself, isn't it?
Not a favourite. No. Definitely some nicer corners than that. to start a race on.
Yeah. Out of those results, would you reckon kind of impressed you the most in that F2 result there, Ryan?
I don't know. I suppose it's a little bit too early to tell because you know what some people are like. They just find pace out of nowhere between seasons sometimes, like if they're putting a bit of extra practice in. So for me at the minute, it's a bit too early to tell who the surprises are because you don't know who's putting more time in than others. So it's kind of a bit hard, really, to answer that one.
It's one of those races, especially if you look at the results. You got the winner, Muddy Biscuit, won from 7th, Cookie from 15th to 2nd, and Josh from 12th to 3rd, and you had all those. I mean, Grunty from 18th to 9th. All those. It was kind of a race that, because of the safety car, because of the accident at the start, it's going, as you say, a difficult race to gauge because in terms of who's going to be pace-wise up near the front. So do you reckon in terms of F2 we won't know really who's going to be the usual front runners, the championship contenders, until probably what, Monaco time, Spain time? Or would you have said a little bit earlier?
I think normally you can get a good insight of like this, what the season has in stock for you, for, like around after Monaco, I think. So what was that? Canada, right? After Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into Canada and you start looking at the table, going right, who's gunning for what? Because if you're like down in 9th place in the championship, you know it's possible. Don't get me wrong, it's still anyone's game at that point. But if you're down in 9th place, for example, you're not normally a title contender. But normally, like from Monaco onwards, the top groups stay the same, the middle groups stay the same, and the bottom groups stay the same. If you get what I mean?
Yeah. Hippo, did you watch that race live? Obviously, you have to analyse it. So obviously watched it at some point. Who impressed you the most? Which, I mean, again, if I look back at the results here, if I scroll back to them, there we go. There wasn't really a team that kind of, although Racing Point, a 3rd and a 5th, for them, obviously Josh being reserve driver for Racing Point, good thing that he raced for them, and obviously you got Alfa Romeo as well, 7th and 10th. Any particular driver that stands out? Actually, no, yeah, stick with a team, because, well, team or driver? Team or driver, which impressed you the most?
In qualifying, it looked very good for the Alfa Romeos as well as McLaren, so both very good. Then in the race, I think both teams struggled. They got caught in a couple. Pretty good team.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good start for F2. As I mentioned to Monster Skyline or to Ryan, it's going to be a few weeks left. A few normal races, because that really, well, obviously with the collision at the start wasn't entirely normal. And I think a lot of people in F2 are going to be slightly wary of the first corner. We're sure not to have a repeat of that. But yeah, good start from F2. Heading into F3 now, and obviously, Ryan, this was your first race, F3 in Australia. What were your feelings ahead of the race?
Nice and simple, really. Just get a point. That was my initial thought before even qualifying started. I was just like, right, get a point, make a point to people, in a sense. No pun intended on that one. But just to at least get something on the board to start the season off, because the worst thing you want is to have a 0 score for like the first 4 or 5 rounds. It starts to bring you down. So just get some points, really.
Yes. Yeah, and this was a race I commentated on as well, and I think in general was a very entertaining one. Frustrating as well, because we had a restart, as well as me being kicked from the lobby as well, so So qualifying was entertaining, and then had to restart it, and then at lap 6 I got kicked, so I came back, and by the time I came back, obviously a couple of things have happened, so frustrating in general, but the racing was very, very good. 20 raced in this F3 race to kick things off for them, which is always great to see, and I think the numbers were great all throughout the races this week. Apart from F4 had about 16, but that still was a good race there. But the top 10 in qualifying was I's the Best, VRC Dan, Blazer Guns, Sainz, Gachal, Stretch, Camo, and Men's the 2 Racing Points, Quaker and Falcon, and they all battled it out for the qualifying, and it was VRC Dan that took the pole position at 1:19.590, closely followed by RSF1 Sainz with a 19.672, both of them battling over pole position furiously. Third place was Camo on 1:19.9. He was unfortunate because he, on his final lap in Q3, unfortunately invalidated through turn 10 and 11, and that would have been close to the front 2, and that was a real shame. Hippo, you had obviously your race in F5, and obviously we'll talk about that soon, but track limits, obviously I know well about track limits, of course I do, but what were you thinking about the track limits in Australia? They are quite difficult to master, especially through turn 11.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident with the setting valid laps, but there was always this one corner where I knew if I were to get a penalty, it'd be through there. I think I ended up getting 6 seconds, and 4 of my warnings were all through that one corner. Not ideal, but
yeah, good start for VRC Dan. In fact, topped Q1, 2, and 3 throughout qualifying, so was in fine form, and he did get the pole position for himself. So the race got underway, as I said, after the restart, which was thankfully not too long. But like F2, the day before, there was a safety car on the first lap. At turn 2, there was an incident between Falcon, Kachal, and Beast Bro, from what I could gather, by looking at the dots. And the cars that had damage, they went just past turn 2, I believe. Not further down like what F2 had. We'll run down to turn 3. So, safety car came out and kind of settled the grid. Decent start for yourself, Ryan, I might add. From that, you kept yourself out of trouble. Did you have any kind of other point of view from that incident? Did you see any of it? You remember?
I remember getting tapped at the back of turn 1, which led me to hitting the back of someone else, and that kind of thing is just dominoes, really, for incidents. Don't really know what more to say to that other than that.
It's alright, no, it's all good. Obviously, unfortunately, my footage, me streaming, got caught or shortened a few laps. So lap 7 was kind of the next bit of action. Obviously, the safety car came back in, and Sainz, who had actually taken the lead from VRC Dan, led the way ahead of Dan, although Dan was right up his gearbox. Lap 7, though, unfortunately, Quaker Oats got damage in his Alpha Tauri off of turn 2, had a little bit of a spin into the wall, got a bit of wing damage, and that unfortunately dropped him down a little bit. Lap 8, though, the following lap, Sainz had a slide just before the last corner, and that moment was all it took. VRC Dan shot up on the inside in the last corner and basically started to pull away, although Sainz at that point before their pit stop was still there behind and still just keeping in the second window in the DRS. By this point, as I said, Dan was leading, Sainz second, Camo was holding off a third place, closely followed by Stretch. Camo's teammate Cooper Benz was rounding out the top 5. Coming into lap 12, Cooper Benz came out the pits and unfortunately was caught in an incident with Quirky Turtle and dropped to the back of the grid, 14th place, and then retired 2 laps later. Just quickly on Cooper Benz, Ryan, obviously you are a former teammate of Cooper Benz, you know what he's capable of. Obviously you're both now in the same tier again, not teammates this time. How do you reckon I can imagine he's going to be feeling quite gutted about what happened there, because he definitely looked quite strong before that incident out the pits. He's going to recover, isn't he? I expect him to.
Keith Benz normally has a bad race and comes back twice as strong, and he comes back even quicker, and it's kind of scary.
Sometimes all it takes, isn't it? You need to be down before you go up, but he'll be fine, I'm pretty sure. Definitely looks the pace to be strong in tier 3 again, doesn't he?
I mean, I don't know where you're getting the again from, because he's not been in tier 3, but
well, he was showing bits in tier 4, wasn't he, last season? So
tier 4 people were saying that he should have been in F3, but obviously he joined quite late into the season, so there's no point in moving him up, really. But I'm glad he stayed in tier 4, because it kept competition for a lot of drivers, and I think he had a few races that he missed, and then he had a few unfortunate results. Maybe there's a bit of consistency issue there, maybe, potentially. I'm not really one to judge, I don't have consistency to save my life, but...
Neither do I, so...
But I think,
who are we to judge? I
think he'll learn from tier 3, which is what I think everyone wants to do. We all want to learn from the tier we're in, so... As long as he learns and adapts to the league and the drivers around him, I think he'll push the top 5.
Lap 13 is when VRC Dan pitted, obviously leading at this point. Sainz actually pitted before, I believe that's correct. Yeah, Sainz was the first to pit out of the 2, but when Dan came out, the undercut. It was Dan that pitted first. Yeah, Dan pitted first, because undercut means, yeah, I'm mixing my words up. Dan pitted first. When Sainz pitted, the undercut was so big that Dan had a 5-second lead and plus over Sainz after the pit stops. And it proved to be a very strong weapon for those that wanted to do it in Australia. Lap 20 was when everybody had pitted, so VRC Dan still led at this point with Sainz in second, and then it was a bit of a gap to Camo and Stretch battling over third place. Skylar, you were in a very solid 5th at this point, because you said to me, points was what you were aiming for, and so you were in a solid place at the moment. Then Kachal was in 6th place with Eyes in 7th, although they pitted a couple of laps later because of their strategy. Then it was Beast Pro, Quaker Rates, who was recovering after that incident that he had earlier on, RSF1 Eagle, and Peachy Pig, who was on softs, and that was the kind of key thing because he was on the rise after starting on the harder tyre earlier on. Lap 24, battle for 10th place, Toxic, who was going along nicely in his McLaren, Toxic CW I believe this was, holding off Millsy. Unfortunately, though, Millsy had an incident with Toxic and spun at the end of turn 12, so he dropped back a little bit. And then we had a heart-stopping moment on the stream. I don't know if you saw this, Hippo, where Peachy Pig spun on the front straight and nearly took out a McLaren, if I remember rightly. Do you remember this moment?
No, I don't remember that. Sorry.
Yeah, so right. But yeah, Pig, who was Peachy Pig in the Renault, was sort of actually recovering quite well for the 2 Renaults, because obviously with everything that was going on, they were at the back of the grid or back of the field at one point, and he was angling for points, but he spun from 7th to 11th, but at least was still in the race. And then we got to the last lap, where the last thing that happened, and it's such a shame, really, because it was a unfortunate slide for Camo, which dropped him out of the podium, which meant Stretch in the Mercedes picked up the podium from him. A spin from turn 9 for Camo, unfortunately. But Camo still came home a very solid 4th place. But the results, at the end of it, if I can get to them, there we go. VLC Dan in the Ferrari took the victory, as I said. When he passed Sainz, he took the lead and kind of never looked back, really, to be honest. Although Sainz was keeping up to him at one point until the pit stops, and that's when the advantage for Dan shone through. Stretch in the Mercedes, 3rd. A good, strong result for him, with Camo in Racing Point 4th. Monster Skyline 5th place from 16th. Happily take it, I imagine.
Oh yeah, a bit of luck, I have to admit. Like, a few people crashing out that are faster than me, so yeah, definitely a bit of luck in that, but happy.
Credit.
Yeah. RSF1 Eagle was next in 6th place in the Mercedes, capping off a good, strong event for the Mercedes team. 7th was Beast Pro in the McLaren from 15th, so another good, strong result for him, another good recovery drive. Quaker Oats, also a very nice recovery considering his spin at turn 2 early on in the race. He ended up in 8th. Kachal was in 9th in the Haas, also got the fastest lap of the race. And Millsy from 19th on the grid managed to pick up a single point left on. So, good race for F3. Had its moments, and again it was quite frustrating with obviously the restarts, but obviously we can't really help those. Yeah, good point with F3. Obviously, did you watch most of F3 last season, Hippo?
I saw quite a lot of F3 last season, yeah.
F3 arguably, although other people would obviously compete for this opinion, but F3 arguably was one of the more entertaining and open seasons in RSF1 last season, although there were others, of course. But this season, I reckon there's going to be more of the same. There's a lot of race winners or potential race winners in this tier, it seems. Obviously, there are a few selection that could be at the front consistently. Sainz being one, Dan being another. Camo and Cooper Benz look a strong Racing Point team. Obviously, it's very, very early to say after week 1. But it's looking like an entertaining tier, isn't it, Hippo?
Yeah, there's going to be a group of maybe 5 drivers that are there or thereabouts most weeks. So, same with a couple of tiers. This is looking like most tiers of a group of 2 to 5 drivers.
Again, VRC Dan in the chat saying, I agree, it's very open. Obviously, congratulations on your win, VRC Dan. Good timing as well, as I'm on the Ferrari just scrolling through. What do you think about Tier 3, Ryan? A challenge, I'd imagine.
I'm excited for it personally. Like, I'm expecting a solid midfield battle once things get rolling. It'd be interesting to see who can catch Dan, if I considering he's in the chat. It's going to be very interesting to see if anyone can catch him, because he seemed very, very dominant in Australia. So whether it's a one-off or whether it's going to be continuous throughout the season, look forward to finding out.
Yeah, could have been a strong track. That could be the reason why, but...
I did say that. Yeah. Don't try and catch me out.
Did.
I did say that.
First win since Silverstone last season, so definitely enjoy it. Dan. But that was Tier 3. We head off now to F5, where Monster Skyline, you analysed it this week, so take us through what happened in F5.
Well, I do apologise for my brief little notes. I got given today's notice to go watch the stream.
Sorry.
and get a few notes. So those of F5, I apologise, I haven't done you justice here. I know I haven't. It's going to be shorter than the others and not as in detail. But from next week onwards, as long as I'm doing tier 5 again, I'm assuming I'll be able to do better notes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be able to do better notes because I'll be watching the races live, so I'll be able to pick up more key information because I literally just flicked through the stream, so I do apologise. I'm not doing you full on justice. But I will go through qualifying quickly. I didn't write down the times. I will do that next time as well.
That's fine.
But the top 10, from 10th to 1st, you have Papa Smurf in the Haas. You have RSF1 Raikkonen in the Ferrari, McCracken in the Renault, RSF1 Lincoln in the Racing Point, NV Tacticals in the Ferrari, Immortal in the Red Bull Racing, Tedis, or Ted First, whichever one you want to call him, in the Williams, Andy Yuzgin in the other Renault, RSF1 Double. I read it as Dubby the first time, I'm not going to lie, so I apologise to you as I said it. Well, I didn't say it, but I read it as Dubby in the Mercedes, and RSF1 Source in the Racing Point, who had a margin of about 4/10, I believe I wrote down, from first to second. That's the one thing I did write down, so I got one thing right at least. So we'll move on. I did notice as well when looking through this stream that a few people were retired in Q1. Didn't really have time to find out why. I just saw that 3 people didn't even set a lap in Q1. So, anyone want to? Can anyone here fill me in? What happened there?
I know 2 had qualifying bans. I know Locker and Kabuki
Yep.
did. I don't
Oh,
know
did they?
the other one.
Qualifying bans from previous season,
Yeah.
which were carried over.
I didn't know that could happen, so that's nice to learn. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just...
No.
Shush, whatever. What have we got here on my notes? Okay, my notes are a little bit scuffy. To start the race off, there was a little bit of an issue with one of the Renault drivers, Andy Yuzgin, who struggled to get off the line. Caused a little bit of a mess behind. It wasn't too bad. Everyone seemed to avoid it quite nicely, other than the car directly behind him, who gave him a nice little push to get the car going. Turn 3 on lap 1 was a bit of a madness. I think we saw 2 cars run wide and a couple of cars hit those that went off, and it wasn't the messiest, but it wasn't the cleanest. It was just a bit of chaos. And during the madness of it all, I believe Locker got 10 positions or 11 positions on lap 1.
Yeah,
I
good
think
start.
Very solid start for him. He's definitely the one I took notice of in the early stages, as did the commentators. To be fair, they definitely made a bit of a deal out of that. So that was that. Obviously, as well, with all the people having a few offs and whatever, both of the Williams looked kind of strong because they were P2 and 3 at one point during the early stages. So the Williams having a fantastic start. The team owner must have been a bit buzzing at the start. Didn't last too long though, with penalties that hindered one of the Williams drivers, who I can't remember the name of. Who was it? I can't remember his name. But he had a few issues, and he got quite a lot of penalties and eventually didn't finish, but we'll get to that.
Invade.
It's either Tedist or...
That was Invade, I think, that led to the penalty.
Yeah, Invade.
That's it, Invade. I do feel sorry for him though, because he got a lot of penalties very early on, so hopefully he can tidy that up for the future races. One thing that did catch my eye as well, in the first round of pit stops, was how many people actually went onto the hard tyres. It was very interesting to see that many people go onto the hards. I didn't expect it. I don't know what more to say to it other than that. There was a few nice battles to watch. Obviously, just glancing through, I didn't write down any drivers. I probably should have done, but there was a nice few battles here and there and everywhere. Bit of something going on for everyone's kind of taste. But then gaps did start to spread, which was a bit unfortunate. But however, on lap 15, Source and Shadow had a bit of a collision, which the stream missed, so I didn't get the best view of it either. Which brought out the safety car for everyone. So that obviously helped out people bunch back up and make up for lost time with incidents that may have happened earlier on. Which there was a few little ones.
I know who it was. Sorry to cut in there. That
Go on.
was Source.
I said Source.
That was Source.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shadow. Sorry.
Source and
Yeah,
Shadow,
Source.
but it wasn't Shadow like a lap down or something?
Yes. Shadow, I think, had an off through turn 10, halfway through it, came back on track and unfortunately hit Source. obviously, I was gonna say a thing about Source, RSF1 Source. That is the best race I've seen him race at this point. I was all behind him because he hasn't won a race, and this obviously not to disappoint him even further because he was gutted afterwards. But I'm impressed with what I saw. That's the positive he's got to take forward from Bahrain onwards with Source, because he has the pace to get his first win, to get podiums this season, because he was on it in Australia up until that point. Yeah, a shame, but definitely I felt gutted along with him. But best race I've seen him do so far. Carry on.
Well, well done to him for having a great start to the season. Unfortunately, couldn't survive the whole race, but hopefully he can carry the momentum, which is the important part of 2 races, through to the next round, of course. However, that did mean that the safety car was out until lap 18. Obviously, everyone bunched up. There's battles, people trying to get advantage off restarts and trying to get a couple of cheeky overtakes here and there. Obviously, I didn't look too much into it because obviously there'd been a lot of battling, a lot of scrapping, so there'd been too many notes to write down, and I was literally on like an hour, I think, to write down notes, so I just didn't have time to look at everyone, so I do apologise. But
Blame
one
me.
thing, blame Michael, yeah. But one thing that did catch my eye, I perfectly timed it as well to get on board with it, which was entertaining, was lap 20, a few cars are having a little bit of a bumper car session, bumping into each other, squeezing each other, and all that malarkey in turn 4, and Daniel P45 gaining 2 or 3 places just for people scrapping too much. Like, very nice move, to be fair, very good. Just anticipation to wait for the right time to make the moves on his behalf, I guess. It's very fun to watch that.
I bet he was like, you two seem to be having fun. I'll just go by and just leave
Don't
you
mind
to
me,
it.
I'm coming through. See you later, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I put down in my notes here, that this is it. Lap 22, Invade went into the pit lane. But the one thing I did write down was he did have really good race pace. Like, when he was staying on the track, being consistent, he did show good race pace, and he even set fastest laps, which was great to see. I would just like to see him improving his consistency, because if he can get some consistency behind him, I think you could easily chuck him into F4 next season. If he can obviously find that crucial thing that we all want, which is the consistency. So hopefully he can find that and work his way up through the tiers. Have you two got anything to say about Invade while we're on him? Because we're not going to mention him again after this. Anything else?
I spoke to him
It's-
a little
it's-
bit, but not much.
It's our word of the day. It's our word of the evening. Consistency. I said it a lot during my grid previews. Because the thing is with F5, people sometimes label F5 as like, yeah, on raw pace. That's why they're in F5. They are the slowest, but
Not all of them.
it's kind of it's kind of people finding their consistency over a championship. That's what it is. It's results, it's consistency of results, and even picking up 5th or 6th when things aren't exactly going your way is always going to improve you. And that's kind of the more ready to look at. There's still going to be an entertaining tier this season in F5. There's a lot of promise. People are improving in the tier all the time. So yeah, invade. It will come because consistent pace is harder to find in yourself. If you've got the pace, all you need to do is just measure yourself, or at the right times, and people can easily learn that. So yeah, he'll be fine. I think.
Right, my next note was on that 23, Andy Yuzgin unfortunately crashed out and had a VSC come out. But at that moment in time when the VSC did come out, I noticed there was a few battles around. I think there was a 4-car battle for 4th and a 3-car battle for like 8th or 9th, I can't remember. But there was a good couple of midfield and top of midfield battles going on to keep everyone entertained. Lockett and McCracken had a bit of an incident, but I noted this down because of Locker showing respect to his rivals, I guess, in a way, because he did let the driver through after making a mistake. He hit him and did let him back through, which is always nice to see. It's always nice to see a bit of respect between drivers and putting your hands up when you made a mistake on the track instead of just relying on penalties all the time, which is nice to see, which is why I think I like F5 more than most other tiers, because they're more respectful. I don't mean that in any disrespect to anyone, but
What?
you do tend to get, I think in F5, if someone's going to make a mistake,
Yeah.
they tend to put their hands up a lot more. But in other tiers, people try and, excuse my French, but bullshit their way through it.
Oh, that's a burning opinion, Ryan.
Well,
It's a strong opinion.
I see it quite a lot in general chat, so
Yeah,
I'm not wrong.
It is a good point.
you always see some sort of heated argument after a race other than F5.
Not wrong, but very harsh
think-
still.
It is, yeah.
I think,
it's harsh but true.
yeah, I'm trying to sort of pour some water on this.
Don't need to put water on it, man.
I'll
It's
cool
as
this
it
down.
is.
Yeah. No, I think the better way about it is that F5 is competitive. I'm not saying that they're not. It's just they have, and everyone has fun in the higher division. It's just the higher division you go, the more competitive it is. The more people wanna beat each other on the
Yeah.
track, you know, and so on and so forth. Like I'm not saying F5 isn't, but F5 is like
I think you're digging yourself a grave here, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm digging myself grave. Yeah.
They don't
No,
care
because-
as much. At the top divisions, it means a lot more.
Oh,
There's more
Hippo's
to
doing
gain.
it now. Hippo's digging
Yeah,
it
but
now.
I'm F5. I'll take it. They can spam me.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'll just tonk them off.
Yeah. Carry on, Ryan. Move on swiftly.
Swiftly moving on, dodgy bastards. Unfortunately, on lap 27, I noticed that Daniel P45 ended his race after having a very good performance. I think he was top 3. I might be wrong with that, but he was looking very strong.
Oh
throughout the
yes, he
race.
was.
Yeah.
The Red Bull driver as well.
And then he lost
Yeah.
it with the fast left-right chicane, and it didn't cause a
Not the only
virtual
one.
safety car or anything. It was just yellow flags, but unfortunately for him, he had a very strong race and looked good for a podium, and didn't quite work out for him, unfortunately, after making a really good double overtake that we mentioned earlier. So
Yeah.
that was very unfortunate for him. And then we go on to that 28 and 29. These are my final couple of notes, really. I noticed that a lot of people were making more mistakes on the last 2 laps, like obviously people getting a bit fatigued and maybe getting a bit tired or fed
Worn
up on the
tyres.
race. Worn tyres as well, yeah, not helping. But it was very solid to watch the last few laps, other than a little incident between 2 teammates. You know who you are. I'm not going to say who you are. I'll be nice and hide that, because I've already done myself enough of a grace other than pissing off the Haas boys. Oops, I said it anyway. Anyway. But the 2 Haas cars had a bit of an incident, which they managed to survive at least. That's a positive. Considering only 12 people finished that race.
They wanted to know each other more intimately.
It's very kind
They
of them.
did
They
more
were
than
both
be
up
intimate,
my
mate.
ear.
They went straight to foreplay. They did.
Oh, all right.
But yeah,
They were catching me up, so that was nice of them.
I need to bring up the results. I've completely bottled this. Hang on, I need to find the results. Michael, I've lost your message now. Hang on.
I had them if you.
I've-
I had them if you want.
I've got it, right.
I've
got
no
it, I've got
six.
it.
Okay.
So, in the end,
Pick
after
was
all,
where you finished.
Yeah.
True. For now, we'll see. To win the race was Ted First, or Tedist, whichever one you want to call him. I hear so many people say
Ted
different
first
things.
was first.
Ted First was first, yes, and he had a 12.2 second gap to the second place. Pretty impressive, to be fair. That's very, very comfortable win for him in the end, after
Good
all the
stuff,
drama
man.
behind him and ahead of him at times. In second place was RSF1 Lincoln. In third was McCracken. In fourth was Timmer. In fifth was Locker. Sixth, Hippo. Hippo, that was. I was just being a bit of a knob. Seventh was Tacticals. Eighth was Pupper Smurf. Ninth was RSF1 Double. And the final point goes to Stars Orphan.
The legend that is Orphan.
The legend that is Orphan, yeah.
Yes. I am neutral, of course.
There
I do have her.
was 2 other finishers that didn't score a point, being Bradley Johnson 2 and Force Manure. Who deserves a bit of credit, actually, because he was quite far behind everyone and still finished the race, so credit to him for finishing.
Yeah, very credit. As you can tell, I have a little bit of a...
Favoritism.
What's the phrase? Not favoritism, neutral. No, I'm neutral. No, I applaud the effort of Stars Orphan.
Favoritism.
Yeah, it is favoritism. I don't care. I don't care.
Respect.
I don't care. Respect, yes, that's the one.
Respected
That's the one.
favoritism.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, alright. Alright. Yeah, good stuff from F5. I think a similar race to F2, to be honest. As in, we're not going to really get like who's going to be the title challengers until a few weeks on, because obviously a lot happened in it. So yeah, all looking good for them.
It's good to actually flick through the highlights of that race, because there wasn't many dual parts, because normally when you watch a league race, there's a point that's boring. But during that F3 race, when it looked... No, not F3 race, F5 race, where it didn't start to look to get boring, the safety car came out. So it was like the safety car came at the perfect time for entertainment purposes, I guess. So it was kind of good. Worked out.
Resets everything, put them back together. Go again.
Yeah, that's... yeah, thank you very much, Ryan. Yes, F5 every week. So, but I think that was good, considering you only had an hour. So that was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
I flew through that as well. Poppy went through that like a madman.
Yeah, they're not going to be like that every week. I hope they are like that every week.
You want it like that every week? I'll just do quick 1 hour reviews if you want me to. Just quickly.
No,
More to talk about.
as an action, you know.
Oh, okay. How do you know there's that
Right,
little action? You don't even know if you watched it. But if you didn't watch it, you just heard it from me. There you go.
I have a crystal ball. I know what's going to happen, you know. So
Go on then. Who's going to win your tiers race next week then?
I've already said. Oh, my tiers race,
Yeah.
not me.
That's
Dark
obvious.
and
Yeah,
dangerous
you're
Dan.
probably getting disqualified. But yeah.
Yeah, probably. Moving on, because we still got 2 more tiers to go. We got next up is the F1 division. Mr. Hippo, back to you for this one,
I don't have timings.
which happened on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't have times for the qualifying. I took a screenshot too late because this one also had a restart in, which wasn't ideal, but got through it. And the top 10 consisted of RSF1 Mansell, Nat Dog, Midzi, Turbo, IGN Legends, one of the Vettels, the Vettel SF71, whose teammate didn't make it through in the same car with the same name.
Mm-hmm.
God,
And
that's
then-
awkward.
Yeah, Lando got 4th as team principal of Williams. Then the front 3 were all Alphas. You've got the Alfa Romeo of Corey Marshall, the Alpha Tauri of RSF1 Eastern, and the other Alfa Romeo of Days Rhombus. So, lots of... There's an Alpha Frenzy up at the top.
Oh, friends.
Yeah, and then the race had a very quick start once the restart happened, which obviously wasn't ideal, but once we got going, action happened off the get-go with Easton sliding down the inside of Rhombus into turn 1. So it was looking great for the former champion, trying to keep his title. Over in the second sector, Corey Marshall started 3rd, then took 1st. So it wasn't looking quite so good for Easton then. The second lap there was a safety car after the left right-handers, which have caused lots of people to have problems, I'm guessing throughout practice as well as races. Caught out element snow, so the safety car went out. And all the top 10 pitted except for Days Rhombus and RSF1 Lando, who stayed out in their softs. Then, very early into the restart, Aldaf spun at turn 2, which caused a similar incident to Div 2, with 2 retirements, which was very unlucky. Well, it was a bit earlier after that corner. But there was no safety car or virtual safety car. It got cleared up very quickly. Because all the cars went into the walls after making contact. And then, moving on to lap 9. Corey Marshall looks to make a move and sink Diggles into turn 3. And Diggles just drifts across to block the inside line. I don't think Corey Marshall can react in time. So there's contact and Diggles goes into the wall, which is unlucky. That made his race a lot tougher than he would have wanted. He was up in P5 at that point in time. A little bit later into the race, around lap 12, Lando pitted out of second. I believe he was 5 seconds off. 3 seconds off Rhombus at this point. Rhombus immediately responded, going into the pit the next lap, and staying ahead of Lando, yet neither of them were at the top. There was people pitted under safety car. Then with a couple of laps to go, with 10 laps to go, Corey Marshall overtook Pigeon. Just before there was a collision between Midzi and Pigeon into turn 4, where they've made contact, both gone into the barrier, and then Pigeon's the wrong way. Midzi can somewhat carry on, however they both have severe wing damage and both need to pit, which ruined both their races. They were looking very quick, both of them, for all of qualifying. And Aldaf retired and a safety car occurred, and then in that 3-lap period of that safety car being out, everybody pitted onto the intermediate tyres other than RSF1 Lando, RSF1 Mansell and Unity Hush, who went onto the intermediates and then went back onto softs. And Lando got a good getaway, keeping the second, even though DRS was disabled. So that was looking very interesting. And then Unity Hush made a lot of moves before misjudging a braking zone, I believe, into turn 3, going a little bit deep, losing a couple of positions. And then with 5 laps to go, Lando decides, he had to pit anyway. He done softs on softs. Lando pitted for inters, off of the lead, and lost quite a few positions, which was a shame for him, but he messed up his strategy at some point by the looks of it, or didn't quite expect the rain as it did happen. And as the race finished, it finished with maybe some of the people that are looking the fastest in qualifying, with Corey Marshall just getting first. It looked like he dominated the race pretty well, with Easton behind him, who was also very consistent, kept it clean through some of the earlier incidents, just didn't get involved in many problems. And then in third we had Midzi, who was looking really good in qualifying, but had a crash in Q3. It looked like he could have been near that front row, but still got good points, so I think he'd be happy with that. And I can quickly get the results.
Yeah, pretty good race overall in F1.
Yeah.
I unfortunately missed it live because I was watching my favourite football team, of course, on that night. But I did
Brighton.
watch it. Yes, we won. Haha.
We don't go there, Mikhail.
Oh, why not?
We just don't go there, Mikhail.
Okay. I was gonna mention who we beat, but you know, I don't want to go into that. But no, I won't. I watched it later that night, and yeah, when Unity Hush, obviously he's my team principal, Red Bull, went off, I was just like, no. I had my hand, you know, and in my mouth anyway. But Midzi had a good result for us. Very entertaining. I think the only race this week that had even a sprinkling of rain at all.
Yeah.
And it happened in the race as well at a pretty interesting point. Yeah, it was a good one to watch.
The way Easton put it into the chat, he said, "There's a slight chance," just giving us a little bit of hope, just praying that there was something at the end.
If there's a slight chance from now on, then there is rain. So
I wouldn't say that.
Anyway, carrying on.
It finished the top 10. I need to work this out. What am I doing?
Relax, you got this.
Top 10 was, I believe, Mansell, Hush, Rhombus, Lando, Vettel, SF, then Sink Diggles, who had an incident, but still got P5, so the Haas would have been very happy. As the teammate finished just ahead, Turbo. And then, as we said, the top 3 had Midzi, Easton, and Corey Marshall.
Yeah, obviously a good start for 2 potential championship protagonists of Corey Marshall and
Easton, but Midzi's also up
Corey
there.
Marshall.
So
Yeah, and obviously the biggest question is, can Easton retain his title, because of obviously he's going to have big challenges of Midzi, Hush,
that's
Lando, obviously his former rival.
yeah. Got the target on his
Right.
back now, doesn't he? He's the one to beat.
Yeah, he certainly does. What do you think, Ryan? If you had to put money on whether Easton can retain his title or not, if I had to push you, could he do it?
I think he can, yeah. I think over the course of the season, he's one of the more consistent drivers, which is obviously your word of the day. So, I think he's one of the more consistent drivers. Obviously, with it being the top tier, a lot of them are consistent anyway. So, I just feel like he's got a slight edge.
Yes. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But I reckon it'll be a lot closer than last season. I believe 50 points in the end he won it by. I definitely think it's going to be close. Again, very early to ask this, Hippo, but do you reckon this championship fight is going to go down to the last few races? Hopefully the last one.
I think it will go down to. I think at Mexico it will be between 2 drivers. However, I hope it goes all the way until Abu Dhabi.
Of course. We do have one more tier left to go, and that is F4, but we are going to push this interview to now because this guy's been waiting very, very patiently for this interview. So thank you once again to Primus. Hello, Primus. Good evening.
Hello. How are you
Hello.
all?
Sorry once again. With it's gone on longer than I expected.
No worries. It's
But it's
just
a good thing.
I knew to be ready for around 8ish, but then when I saw you, so like, just finishing up a couple of minutes. Oh yeah, that's cool. But then my friends are like, where are you? And I'm just like, wait. I'm just like, listen, I got to do this first. I need to do this. I want to do it, so they have to wait.
You're a wanted man, Primus.
I am wanted. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Got a target on you.
We're just about to cover F4 in a little while, but obviously we have asked you a few questions about from yesterday. Hint, hint. Spoilers, I guess. From where you finished, but in terms of, we'll talk about F2 actually first question I have for you, because obviously you stream or broadcast F2. Hectic race to start off with, especially with the pileup at the beginning.
Yeah.
But in general, I guess you're happy that you've got F2 once again.
Yeah, I've had F2 for a long while now. I think probably since I started being a part of RSF1. F2 has really been like more of a home for me, more than anything, and I'm glad to be with them once again. And I'm thankful for the committee for having the race week starting on Sunday, which is F2, because that's one of the days that I'm actually available, and to watch over them all again. I've seen quite a few people crowned. I've seen some top quality drivers within F2. What happened Sunday in Australia, and as you already heard from Michael, probably one of the biggest crashes I've ever witnessed in RSF1 Grand Prix racing. It was very, very big, but then again, with a pack like that, they're extremely competitive. They're all being like bottlenecked into one tight lane on a track, and they're all eager to get a good start. It's no surprise an incident like that happen, because all it takes is for someone, especially people who are running the traction, it's so easy just to apply too much revs, and it can all go wrong. Not just from that crash, but I mean, that chicane in all divisions was a killer. It killed so many cars. So, not just that crash, so much happened in Australia, and I think some drivers are quite grateful that it's done. But yeah, to answer your question, more than happy to be with F2 again, and I'm hope to be with them for the future.
Yeah. As I mentioned with that race, kind of difficult to gauge who's going to be near the front of the championship season. Obviously, last season you saw Steerage take it just ahead of Muddy Biscuit. I mentioned about Muddy Biscuit, obviously in this race, obviously took the win as well, so he's kicked off his campaign pretty strongly. I pointed him out as one of the potential title contenders. Who else, if you can pick out anybody else, who else would you say is going to be up there at the front?
Definitely, I have to say, I definitely agree with you. Muddy Biscuit is a sure contender. He's probably one of the most consistent drivers I've ever commentated on. I've not seen a single race where he's been given a 3-second time penalty. I mean, I think he got the odd 1 5-second for an unfair like bit of contact, or or whatever. But I've never seen him earn a penalty cutting corners or exceeding track limits, and that is spectacular. So Muddy Biscuit definitely is one of my highest choices, and I've got to be impartial, I've got to be neutral. But being realistic with how he's been last year and how close his rivalry was with Steerage, Muddy Biscuit is definitely a sure contender. I have to say, it's a shame it's getting him to get some pace in there, get a couple of laps in. Magic Marks. He's actually an F2 champion season 1. He recently come back, and he's actually really opened up some really good racing. He's managed to get some of his groove back. I wouldn't rule out Magic Marks. I'd say he's a person to watch out for, and one person who was possibly going to get his first podium or maybe even win was BF1 Racer. He seemed like he had really, really good pace in that race. He actually battled you for a little bit. So I guess my top 3 in terms of predictions for the Drivers' Championship has to be Muddy. I think, personally, Muddy could probably take it. I know I want to see everyone else try and get that title, but my prediction, I'd say maybe Muddy on top, but very close between Marks and BF1. That's if they don't have another, if they can get a nice race in. I think the stress of Australia kind of got to everyone, and mistakes happened. So the season's not decided by one race. There's still a whole season to go.
Of course. Obviously, I know about your race now in F4. I guess spoilers. We're going to go over it a little bit, but second place for you. Yeah, a good solid drive from yourself, I think. Watching that. Obviously, I try not to give too much away because I'm going to go over it in a little bit. But no, you got to be happy with the start that you made. Is Australia really a good track for you? So, did you kind of expect a good result?
Australia's a meh track for me. I have got good, strong, fond memories of that track. Everyone's no stranger to my debut performance. So I won my first ever league race. So Australia, literally my debut. My dad was dying. I was having a bit of a rough time. I won my first race while he was watching the stream. It couldn't have been more special, perfect. Sadly, he did pass away not too long after that race, before Bahrain actually, in season 1. Seasons 2 and 3 could have been better. Obviously, season 2 we had no safety car, so when I got taken out in the first stages, that was it. Season 3, good result. I mean, more Duffer took the spotlight more than me. I was more just a. I was more of an Albon in that sort of team. He was more the Verstappen, and I was more of the Albon. But season 4, I needed to prove myself. I've been playing second fiddle to Duffer Lump all season. I'm not going to lie, Shane and all that lot were spectacular as team support, but there was some races where, because Duffer was up further, like there had some races where obviously I was having an incident, I'm down the far back, I'm not going to get much attention because I'm nowhere near capable of scoring anything. But Duffer was up the front. Unfortunately, Duffer did get more attention than me, so there was times where I kind of felt a little bit like, what about me? Because it's a team thing, and there were sometimes I did get the support, but then there was times where I didn't. So I needed to prove to myself that I had to prove to myself that I can do it again. I got close in season 1, but lost out on the championship because of my job. I needed to prove myself. I needed to do everything I can, and to accomplish second place in that race. It proved not just to everyone else, but to myself that I can do it. And it's given me the perfect mental boost for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have. Hippo, any questions you have for Primus?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, anything from you, Ryan?
No, I think he pretty much said everything that needs to be said. He went on a bit of a tangent at times, but can't complain at that. We all do it.
I tend to have that habit of accidentally answering questions before they've even been asked.
Yeah, obviously you're looking forward to both parts, the season ahead for F2 and the season ahead for yourself in F4 as well. Quickly about Old Man Z as your teammate in Mercedes. I noticed in that race he did let you through when you were the faster strategy. So I'm guessing the chemistry between you and Old Man Z is pretty good. Obviously you know him from last season.
I've known him for a while now, actually. Old Man Z was with me in season 1. I think season 2 he weren't there. So I've been with him for like 75% of the time that I've been in league racing with you guys. So I have really good, strong chemistry with Manzi. As I said, we've got the history. We've been rivals, and now from being former rivals to teammates, we knew exactly where we each other stood. I know we both gave our goals. He's a great laugh. He's a great lad. If anyone wants to, have a chat with him or play with him, he's literally the most awesome guy. Don't get me wrong. My other teammates who go Alco, Saints, Duffer, Weber, all sorts. They were all great, but I've known Manzi probably longer than all of them combined. So, and that's more on track really. And he was awesome. He had damage, and he still persisted. He told me himself, as long as that car can move, there's a race to finish. He won't give up regardless of how heavy he gets hit. And that's strong in a team. I think Old Manzi and I can push some real good results out together. And our teamwork yesterday had only just proved that one race in and our teamwork is strong from the get-go. We saw the whole season ahead of us. As much as he not feeling too confident in maybe taking the constructors win, I want to try and get us up there at least. We can both get there. I want to try and get top 5 by the end of the season. But that has made us known to the rest of the pack. We are not to be messed with. Mercedes, he's gunning. We're going to do everything we can, and as I said, I'm shooting for that Drivers' Championship. I want it. I want it badly. I need it. So I'm going for it.
Hey, wow. Can you run for president, please, or prime minister?
Well,
We need you.
I mean, I
No, I'll go for
president
president.
running in this country.
Go for president, yeah.
Yeah, just get rid of
No,
it. And
it's more of a
Jeez.
accomplishment for myself. I've been in RSF1 for a while. I've been very patient. I've been humble with my results, but I've been hungry. And after losing the constructors to Alfa Romeo only by a small margin, that has told me we can do it in terms of constructors, but drivers is definitely on the table. And yesterday proves it.
Well, a good, very good start.
Your time.
Yeah, potentially. Yes, thank you for your time, Primus. I will let you head off now. Thank you for waiting so patiently. And good luck for the rest of the season. Yeah. Good luck for F4 and have fun watching F2.
Oh yeah,
I try not to corner cut so much.
Well, to be fair, mate, in any track, when you're trying to avoid stuff, anything happens. You could try and dodge, and the game will still be horrible to you. Be like, "Oi, that's a cut there," and you're like, "Top of that will die."
I swear, sometimes the lines, they move. They get a little bit more narrower.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's everyone else on the game, seen that.
I think Australia is definitely one of those tracks where it does that. You run a little bit wide one lap, doesn't say anything. You do the exact same thing the next lap, and it's like, "Oi, it's more out of you there," and that's a penalty.
That's Canada.
That's Canada. Yeah. There you go. Well,
Same
Maybe
line 3
Canada.
laps in a row. And
Mexico. That's a horrible one.
I got disqualified there, so I don't know. Yes, thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the comms box on Sunday.
Yes, hopefully with Diggles. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, it should be Diggles this time. So, thank you very much once again, and have fun this season.
Thank you, lads, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Thank you.
Blimey, he is motivated, isn't he?
yeah.
He is. Got to admire it.
Got to admire it. There we go. That's the interview section. So for those watching or those going to watch this, what I'll do when probably tomorrow, when this is finished, I'll put out a tag in the Discord, and those that want to be in that interview section, which will be at the start this time, I think I'll do it at the start rather than doing it after the recaps. But those that want to be part of the interview, say your thoughts and everything else, I'll put a tag out to everyone and basically say who wants to do it, and we'll go by a list, and we'll go by that name by name, and see if you're available. So from next week onwards, let's see who's going to be in with us next. It'd be good to hear from you. So that's that. We just have one more tier to go, and that is the F4 race that happened last night, and I will take you through a quick recap of that. Unfortunately, 16 raced last night, and that numbers, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think it was just circumstance. Someone in the chat has been waiting for F4, and I know who that is. So don't worry, I will get to you, because I know you want your name mentioned. But yeah, F4 was an entertaining race. Definitely had everything to keep us entertained throughout. Top 10 in that was, for qualifying, was Toxic MW, Primus Gaming, TSRC Rogue, UK Demons, RSF1 Button, Charismic, Cornish, Fish Sticks, Mason Dunk, who was a reserve, and Jamie24, but he qualified on the mediums. That will be a key thing going for the race. XRL Cornish, though, took the pole position at 120.150, a few tenths ahead of Toxic MW with a 120.4, and Jamie qualified third on a 120.5. The race started a relatively clean getaway. Unfortunately, there were a few in the pits on lap 1. Those were Rogue, Fordy, and Mason. Obviously, Mason in his first race, as I mentioned, as a reserve driver. Monster Skyline or Ryan, obviously. I think I'll just call you Ryan. It'd just be simpler. Do you remember your first race in RSF1? Obviously, the nerves I'd imagine were probably there. Yeah. What's it like on the first race? If you remember that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Because I remember I did a couple of races in season 1 of RSF1, so I'm going like over a year ago. It's scary because you want to try and prove a point, but you also need to try and figure out where you stand at the same time. You want to try and be conservative, but you want to push. You go through so many like mixed emotions, and it's just like, yeah, I'm going to push, and it's just like, oh wait, what? And then you just put yourself off your own ideas. So it's, I don't know. It's awkward sometimes.
What about yourself, Hippo?
I think
It's just first impression, isn't it? That's you kind of just want to don't do anything wrong.
I think my first race, I was more focused on not hitting anyone. It was try and be quick, but at the same time, you've got to make sure that you're not a dirty driver. Make sure you're known as being the one that leaves the space and tries to be nice and fair.
Yeah. Mason obviously first race in an incident involved in that one, obviously with the other two. Definitely looked perfectly fine. So I think he will be a good driver going forward, and hopefully he gets a full-time drive soon, because I was definitely impressed with his manoeuvres that he did, his overtakes. So those who were in the pits on that one. No safety cars, no virtual safety cars from F4, which is a good thing to see. But on that first lap, we did have a lot of movers. Primus up 3 places, I believe, from 6th to 3rd. Charismic had a very impressive start, up 5 places as well. So there were the 2 main manoeuvres, but XRL Cornish still led at up until lap 5, and the top 6 were covered by 3 seconds. I believe you had Cornish, Toxic, Primus, Button, Charismic, and one other that the name escapes me. They're all leading, and they're all very, very close to one another, like a DRS train. Jamie, unfortunately, because he started on the mediums, couldn't get them to work kind of quickly enough, and started to drop down the field a little bit. Up until lap 7, XR Cornish was the first to pit, the first to blink, if you will, on for the hard tyres. Which, again, over the week, as the races go by, the strategy kind of reveals itself of what is the best one. Yeah, it seemed Ryan, obviously later went on in the week. Obviously, thanks to those that did it in F2, they took hards a long time, like 29 laps, some of them. It seemed that you can do softs and mediums, but softs and hards were kind of the conservative strategy. Did you know going into the race, was you aware of that? Because obviously, it helps you being after F2, because you kind of know the strategy from that point.
I just don't like the hards around Australia. I've done career mode a few times around Australia with the hards, and it's just not something I enjoy. I normally crash when I put on the hards, so I just won't do anything to avoid them.
Yeah. Cornish though pitted for those hard tyres and to go to the end, because obviously knew we were going to. Lap 8 though is where there was a lot of happenings on lap 8. Charismic goes for a move on turn 12 on Primus. The right-hander spun off, and unfortunately Craig Senna, who was behind him having a decent race, hit him. And then as Charismic was recovering because of his heated tyres in the last corner, XR Cornish, who at this point had pitted for clean air, was looking quite strong, unfortunately had a spin right behind him. So a lot of things happening in turn 12 to the end on lap 8. The good thing for Craig Senna, though, which at this point he was holding on to, I think, 5th or 6th place behind the leaders. He had that incident close to the pit lane, so it meant he kind of pitted for the hard tyres. Normally didn't lose too much time. Lap 9, Scotsman, who had joined the leaders, RSF1 Scotsman, unfortunately spun at turn 10 and 11, but unlike many other people that had spun there, he managed to continue, did not make a single contact with the wall, and was quite lucky to continue, but still did. Lap 11, X04 Cornish was trying to recover from his spin, which he got damage from, DNF'd at turn 2, and the virtual safety car came out. And this was key because Toxic MW, who was leading at this point, hadn't pitted. He pitted for mediums at that point and gained a huge advantage on the VSC. Hippo, I don't know whether you've had a pit stop under the VSC, just to kind of explain kind of the advantage of it, because under the VSC obviously all the drivers have to slow down to a particular pace to keep to a delta, but obviously if you're in the pit lane you can actually go faster than that delta, weirdly enough, even though the pit lane is quite slow. So that advantage is major if you can make it work for yourself.
Yeah, I haven't had any since league racing, but I know that when it does happen it's great, but it can easily go wrong. Because VSCs, obviously it's not lapped basis, it's time, so it's if you can, you do it straight away, but if you wait long or wait a little bit, it can not work, be over.
It's almost like a gift, isn't it? If it's at the correct time of your pit stop, you can gain so much from it.
Yeah, but then if it's not, it doesn't. You still gain something, but it can do a lot less than you would have hoped.
Yeah, but it did work for Toxic NW because it gave him the advantage over the ones chasing him, and it meant that he pitted and came out pretty much with a good stop, and nothing else really happened, to be honest, until lap 20 when everyone had pretty much pitted, and we kind of got a gauge in how the race was going to go. Toxic was leading the race on medium tyres ahead of his closest challengers of Primus and Button, both on the hards. Craig Senna had recovered quite nicely up to 4th place despite his incident on lap 8. He was running 4th on the hards. Scotsman was on mediums, but they were getting quite worn at this point, and he was trying to get to the end from there. So it's touch and go whether he would. Vinny, who had done pretty well on the hard tyres that he started on, meant when he pitted for softs, he came out in 6th place with a potential to go up higher than that. Next was Unseen, who was another reserve today with on the hard tyres, and then Charismic, who was coming back, Old Man Z, and then Demons. And at this point, 13 remained in the race. Lap 25, on turn 1, Vinny goes for a move on turn 1, but unfortunately spins off a Scotsman, so his advantage on the soft tyres to gain positions unfortunately dropped, but he still finished quite strongly. Couple laps later, Charismic unfortunately crashed from 8th place, I believe through turn 10 and 11, another one caught out by that tricky corner. And then the next couple of notes, we've got lap 29, Scotsman unfortunately gets a puncher, 19 lap mediums. They nearly got to the end, but unfortunately he got a puncher on the last lap, which was a shame, but it was worth the go to try and go for it. And that was it. I will go to the race results just to go through them. And they were Toxic MW in the house taking the victory. In the end, the VSC advantage did come through, eventually winning the race by 13 seconds over Primus Gaming in 2nd place in Mercedes. Third was RSF1 Button in the Ferrari. Fourth, Craig Senna in his return to RSF1. Good to see him back. Fourth place from 13th. A good result for him. Graded Vinny, as I said, had that spin in turn 1 late on in the race, but still came 5th from 15th, so a good recovery drive and a fastest lap. Scotsman, despite the puncher, ended up in 6th place, so again, all good considering there. Unseen in his first race in 7th in the Alfa Romeo, 8th for Old Man's in the Mercedes, 9th for Demons in the AlphaTauri, and 10th in his first race. Mason Dunk got the last point in the Williams, and 12 finished the race. Ryan, you used to be in F4, obviously in F3 now, but obviously you know quite a few in F4 from your racing last season.
Mm-hmm.
As you know a few of them, who would you say is going to be a standout for you in F4?
Oh, I used to watch a lot of like F5 and F4 and F3, I think it was, with my main tiers, and also I commentated F1. And I think the standout person for me that could surprise people by the end of the season and potentially even challenge for the title, I'm going to say Scotsman. I honestly think if he can adjust quick enough, I think he can honestly take it.
Yeah, obviously he's got to find his feet in the higher division, doesn't he? But you think he has the capability of doing so? I mean, I agree as well. I do think he will. Cause the stir in F4.
Definitely, yeah.
What about yourself, Hippo? Obviously you watched. Did you watch F4 last night?
I didn't watch all of last night. I saw bits of it. Looked quite good.
Yeah. Obviously we've spoken to Primus. He's obviously motivated for this season going forward. Others I'm pointing out here, obviously Toxic, who won. I think he's going to look strong. Scotsman mentioned. I mean, they're both Red Bull drivers, Vinny and Fordy. Obviously they had difficult races. Any others I haven't mentioned that you think might be up there?
I think what you said in your preview, Scotsman and Jesse could be a good constructor if they can find their feet early on. And I think Jamie will stir it up with qualifying, especially if he can find his race pace, which he struggled to do a bit in F5 last season. I think he'll be up and around the podiums.
Yeah, so all good stuff. I'm definitely kind of jealous I'm not commentating that tier anymore. Well, I might be, considering I'm a backup or kind of manage it. So definitely look strong going forward. Be interested to see what they can do in next week Bahrain, which is obviously the next track that we go to. And that's it. That's our race recaps. So obviously we've had our interview with Primus. So the next thing we're going to very, very briefly touch upon is the real life motorsport stuff, and obviously we main focus on F1. Obviously season hasn't started yet, so obviously once the season gets underway we'll review quickly races that have happened. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I think you both agree with me here, fingers crossed they can do a season with as less disruptions as possible. Obviously if they have to have disruptions, they're necessary, but let's have a fingers crossed that we can have even though last season's calendar was pretty entertaining with the likes of Portimao and Turkey and Imola, a couple of which are coming back this season apparently. So yeah, fingers crossed there's as less disruption as possible.
Yeah, we can hope.
Yeah. Monster Skyline, obviously. Have you seen the calendar in real life?
I can't remember it, but yeah, I've seen.
Starting off Bahrain.
Yeah, because Australia's
November.
Effed it.
Apparently.
Yeah, it's an Imola second round or third round.
Obviously, there's still up in the air about or other tracks as well. And again, things could rapidly change, which again we hope they don't. But yeah, obviously there's still the up in the air about Lewis Hamilton's contract, of whether he's signing. Apparently he is, or whether he isn't. I just want to know now at this point. It's coming into the middle of February. The season is due to start in March, and it's still not announced officially. Ryan, what do you think on this Hamilton situation? I just want it done now. I just want to know.
I mean, I think they're giving him a
itself
deadline
on.
to the end of the month to sign a contract. And I think Mercedes have even gone to him and said, look, this is our final offer. If you're not taking it, we're going elsewhere, sort of thing. So, as much as I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan in a way, I guess, I would also be interested to see him go in a way, because, let's be honest, it's going to be George Russell who takes the seat, and that is a mental story.
It is, because obviously the one race that they did, we all felt for him, didn't he? That one race in Sakir, which obviously eventual winner Sergio Perez, we were all equally as happy for him that he won the race in the end, but he had to feel for George Russell because he did everything right in that race. And if it went for a messy pit stop, which is very unlike Mercedes, he would have done really good.
Then
Yeah,
you
over
have
again.
a slow puncher as well.
Yeah.
A messy pit stop and a slow puncher. What are the chances?
It was a Germany
But it
Hamilton thing, wasn't it? They had like a
Yeah,
1.5 minute
yeah.
pit stop almost.
It happens sometimes. He will get his opportunity. Whether that be this season, next season, he will. That is clear. So he's just got to keep on pushing, doesn't he? But yeah, the Hamilton stuff, I just want it done now. Just want it done. Just want it. Is he signing or is he not? Just want
I
to know
think
now.
he is.
Yeah, I have a feeling he is, just because he wants to get one more title and then see.
Have
Because
the
it's that
record.
record, isn't it? He's equalled Michael Schumacher. I think he wants to get one more, just to.
And with that car,
Which,
it's very possible.
which let's face it, if he's in the Mercedes next season, oof,
Okay.
like, we hope it's closer, but I just think he has it. Only other thing we'll talk about is liveries, because that's the next kind of thing, I guess, to get kind of excited about is the liveries. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm always kind of interested if people change a little bit. If they do, because some never, and they're boring. So, Red Bull, yeah. Mercedes now. Actually, this is the first question. I'll go to you, Ryan, first. Do you reckon they're going to stay with the black livery, or they're going to go silver?
I think they've already said that they're going black again.
Oh, they've already said.
I think
What they said they
So,
will
yeah.
go
I
to
think-
silver or black?
I think they're keeping it silver, and they're going black. Sorry,
Oh, they-
going back
Oh.
black again.
Okay, fair enough. What do you think, personally, Hippo? The black or silver? Hello, Hippo, you there?
Yep. Sorry, I just cut out.
It's alright. What do you think? Black or silver for Mercedes?
I think they'll go black, but if Hamilton doesn't sign, maybe they'll go back to silver. I think it's a
Okay.
done deal, though. I think now it's just
Yeah.
for the publicity as well.
Fair enough. I don't expect them to change, to be honest, and apparently they're going to be their livery reveal is on the 2nd of March, for those who don't know. Red Bull, we won't touch on Red Bull. I don't think they're going to change. They're sponsored by Red Bull, so it's going to stay as Red Bull.
I think they might
So-
come up with a fun little concept design for testing, because they normally come up with something a little bit different, don't they?
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Now, if you remember, not too long ago, they had that black and white Red Bull car, where it's literally just like black and white. That's
Yeah,
what
so it's hard to see the specific parts, wasn't it? It was something like you can't see what we have, or something.
yeah, something it's just like.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
haven't
Sort
announced
of a
when.
lunatic.
They haven't announced when they're going to release that yet. That's to be concluded. To be concluded. Sorry. Ferrari, they're going to stay red, aren't they? They're not going to change. So
I reckon they're gonna be orange.
it's Marinella red, isn't it? They may. I think they may incorporate the Italian flag in some way. I don't know. Put it on the rear wing, like they've done one year. I think it was 2011. They put the Italian flag right at the back, and that was different. Apparently, their location is Bahrain, so we might not see their livery until testing in March, or
Yeah.
middle of March. So
I know the first one's McLaren.
yes, I was going to touch on them. McLaren, obviously Mercedes power this time. Do you reckon they're going to change a bit because of it, or they're going to stay the whole mango orangey kind of thing? What do you think, Ryan?
No alarm, Michael. I didn't understand a single word of that.
Yeah, I think we're lagging a little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah. I think we'll end it there in that case. I think we're having a few issues here, but we'll finish this off. Thank you very much for everyone that joined and that listened to this first broadcast. I'm trying to finish.
Oh dear. He's got a visitor. Oh dear. Not very professional, Michael. Oh dear. Michael appears to be otherwise occupied. Please try again after the tone. Oh, this is awkward.
I put a message in the chat.
Sorry about that. Yes, thank you very much for joining, listening. Thank you for your company, gentlemen.